Hey, what's up? John Shred here. I am in full pajama mode. Happy New Year. I want to get some content out, and today we are reviewing this QNAP TS-233. It's a 2-bay NAS storage unit, kind of meant for a home user or super small business. Super huge thanks to QNAP for sending it over so that I could do the review. Thank you. And also a huge thanks to Western Digital for sending over a 4 terabyte NAS specific. This is their Redline Plus to go inside the NAS. And then I went over to our friends at Canada Computers and bought a second one because I do want to run this in RAID 1. Okay, before we get into it, I'm going to unbox this whole thing. I want to talk to you about kind of who I think this could fit. We'll go over some performance. I'll install Plex on it. That's the main reason I use my NAS, other than storing all of this content. But I feel like this would be more towards maybe someone with a backup storage, maybe a time machine if you're using a Mac product. And I'll try that out. So yeah, stay tuned. We'll go through that whole process, but let's get this unboxed. Okay, unit itself, power cable, screws. So this device, you can have two 3.5-inch hard drives or two 2.5-inch hard drives. They have screws in for both. It is toolless if you use 3.5-inch drives, but if you use a 2.5-inch like SSD or something like that, you do need the screws, so please don't lose them. A network cable, great. The other side of the power adapter. And some manuals. Here, there's the front of the unit. The side just has a lovely QNAP logo. The back, fan, a 1 gigabit network, 2 USB 2 ports, and your power, nothing on that side. On the front, just to mention, this is a USB 3 5 gigabit port, which is cool. You have a kind of a copy button here. You can map that in the software to copy data from a USB key if you want to press that. We'll go over that once we get into the software, and then your power button along with your status lights. So pretty easy, not a whole lot to it. It is a small little unit, nice rubber feet on the bottom. Even when I press it down on it feels good. Like it feels stable. So that's pretty cool. It does here say it comes with 2 gigs of RAM and a quad-core processor. We will see how that compares. I do have an older QNAP TS-451 that I'll be comparing the speeds to. It's a 4-bay one, but the 51 line being a little higher end, but this being a newer model, I do want to compare how they feel based on the price point of this unit to a higher end unit. Kind of see, do you need to spend more, or can you get away with a unit like this, which could be pretty cool. Let's install the drives. First is a screw. It's literally, I literally use my thumb. You can screw it, unscrew this guy. Okay, screwdriver probably would have been better. Whoop, okay. Don't lose that guy. All right, don't make my mistake. There is along the front here a little bit of tape. There we go. Pops out. Now you can see here, so if we flip it around, you can see here are the drive selectors. Cool. 1, 2. Once again, there's a tiny little bit of tape here. I mean, I recommend taking that off. Okay, let's put the unit aside for a moment. The drives themselves are toolless. If you use a 3.5-inch drive, you'll want the ports in the back. It should literally just press in. Yeah, here, I'll show you how it works. So when you put the drive in, you almost want to just flex it, and there's little spots here. They just little fit into the screw holes. There's 3 here, but it actually only uses these 2. So you kind of just flex the the cage, put the one inside first, and then you just flex it around, and it fits in. Ta-da! Yeah. Cool. That is easy. Okay, now let's put them in. Okay, you can see down at the bottom here, there's the actual controller. That's where this needs to connect into. So it's pretty easy. It should only go in one way. Click. Click. That's it. Drives are in. Let's lay it back down. Put it over top. And slide it in. Okay. Shoop. Done. Let's throw our screw back in. Cool. That's it. That's as easy as the install. At this point, I'm going to connect it, boot it up, get it on the network. So you want to connect it. The whole power and of these is that it's always connected to your network. So, I mean, I have my other QNAP down in the basement. I may rig something up here so I can do it with performance, but ideally you connect it up into a 1 gigabit port switch, and then it shows up on the network. So I'm just gonna cut. Let's, I'll get this turned on. Maybe we'll get some footage of it once it's online, and then we can try and do some performance tests. See you in a bit.
A few moments later.
And we're back. Okay, so the setup was easy peasy. Once I connected it to my network, I went into my Ubiquiti dashboard and I saw what IP address it was given. I literally tossed that IP address into my Chrome browser and it connected right away. I was able to start the QTS Smart installation, literally click through it. One of the first things you want to do is check to upgrade your firmware. I did that. It downloads, reboots, just give it a bit of time, and then it automatically jumps right back into the install to continue going. Once updated, it asked me for a device name, username, password. I do highly recommend changing from the default administrator username to something else, just as an extra layer of security. Just someone has to guess that username as well. Might as well change it. Then you update your time zone, synchronize it with the time server, and then you pick whether you want DHCP or a static IP. I recommend DHCP as it'll leave your router to, oh hey, Happy Gabby, what's up? It'll let your router determine the IP address unless you really need static. Go nuts. Not too interested in NASs. So once inside the QTS portal, the first thing it's going to want you to do is to create a storage pool and then a volume. And this is when things got a little bit tricky. There is a nice little instructions where it walks you through. It says, hey, create a storage pool. I created one, which was great. And then it asked me what type of volume to put in there. And I tried to put a traditional volume, and that's when things got stuck because I set up the RAID 1 for the storage. RAID 1 is mirroring between the 2 disks, which is, if you have this 2-bay drive, that's really what you should be doing. You could do RAID 0 for speed. I'm a big RAID 1 guy, and that's what I recommend. Once I had the storage pool created, and my understanding of a storage pool is that you create the storage pool and then you put the volume inside the storage pool. So I did that and I was trying to do the traditional volume and it wouldn't let me. And I was like, what is going on here? I was like, I started over again. And essentially the reason being is I needed to pick a thick volume, and then I had the storage pool and then a volume inside it, and it worked perfectly fine. I ended up doing a thick volume that was pretty much the whole size of the storage pool, which kind of defeats the purpose. On my other system, I didn't even use a storage pool. I just created a straight volume. If you want to use a storage pool and create multiple volumes, it's almost like having partitions on your hard drive, a C drive, a D drive, an E drive, if you wanted to create some separation of the storage pool. Up to you. Once you create the storage pool and the volume, it does need to synchronize the 2 drives together. It takes, I don't know, about 10 hours to do this. You can use the NAS while it's doing that, but it will be pretty slow. I just let it go overnight and came back the next day and continued testing. Okay, so next let's set up Plex. You're wondering, what is Plex? It's an application. You install it on your NAS and it acts as a media server. You can host music, TV shows, movies, and then on another TV, a smart TV or an Android box, you can install the Plex app and it connects to your NAS directly where you've stored those files, and then you can stream it across your network. It's pretty slick. I used to use Kodi quite a bit, but since I discovered Plex, it is way easier and I absolutely love it. So once you've installed Plex, you run through, there's a quick setup there. You need to pick essentially some directories, where your media files will be stored. This is when you may want to pause, go over to your File Station 5, and create some directories on there, some movies, TV shows, whatever you want to do. So when you go back into Plex, you can select those and say, I want my movies to be in this folder, other videos. For the purpose of this, like I said, we're going to have, I've created a John Charette folder. I'm going to put a video in there. One of my, actually the most recent ProArt X870E motherboard unbox. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Now that we get the folders though, we need to put some stuff into it. So speaking of that file, that video, let's try copying that file from a system that I have connected to a 1 gigabit network right beside the NAS. Actually, both users are side by side right now. And then copy it from one and then copy it to the other just to do a quick speed test. So first up is the TS-233, and I'm copying a 15 gigabit file across the network, and let's see how fast it goes. So as you can see here, it's pretty much topping out at the 1 gigabit speeds, which is 120, 125, 110 megabytes per second, which is pretty standard. I know that these drives, the Western Digital NAS Plus drives, they actually top out at 180 megabits per second, so we're not hitting the top of what the drives can do. We're limited by the network. Thanks again, Western Digital, for sending over one of those 4 terabyte drives. It's actually the exact same model I have inside my older QNAP, except I have 4 3 terabyte, same thing, Western Digital Red Plus drives. Love them, they're great. Okay, so that took about, 2 minutes for it to transfer 15 gigabytes across, which was pretty great. Let's do the same thing on my older TS-451 and see how fast it goes. Yikes, it hit a cap. It was doing like 50 to 70 megabytes per second versus the 110 in the other one. Can you think of why? Welcome to Who Wants to Be a Tech Geek? And today we are answering the question of why is John's QNAP 451 slower than the TS-233? Is it A, link aggregation? Is it B, CPU bottleneck? Is it C, network congestion? Or is it D, improper configuration? If you guessed B, CPU bottleneck, you are correct. Here, check it out. As you can see here, the TS-451, the CPU is just cranked, maxed out while copying those files. Now the real question is why? And if you guessed RAID 5 versus RAID 1, ding, 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 you are right. It takes a lot more work for the CPU to figure out in a RAID 5 configuration when it's running and it's actually writing to all 4 drives at once, but also keeping track of which files and which parts of which files are written to all 4 of those drives. It takes a lot of CPU overhead. That is one of the big advantages to this TS-233 is that it's RAID 1, and RAID 1 is very fast. It copies both drives at the same time, and as we saw, it has no problem with a 1 gigabit Ethernet. All right, now let's get back to it. Now that we have Plex set up and we've copied some files over, let's try and view some 4K uncompressed footage that I recorded on both NASs. NASs? Yeah, we'll go with that. All right, and buffering. Okay, this is the TS-233 and it definitely isn't doing it. Okay, that's cool. Let's switch over to the TS-451 and see if it can handle it any better. Does not look like it. That's okay. Neither of these NASs are designed for full playback of 4K footage. Let's see if it works well with 1080p footage. Okay, like here on the TS-233, it's playing back perfectly fine. This is actually 120 frames per second footage, not even just 30 frames per second, and it's playing back no problem. So 1080p is great, and I tested the same thing on my older QNAP, and it runs perfectly fine. Now I know, I've watched movies and stuff on my old QNAP, so let's see if we can, I'll download here the Dune Part 1 4K trailer, and let's see if it will play back properly. Oh yeah, no problem. This TS-233 can play that back, no problem, no issue at all at full 4K resolution. Nice. Okay, so what did we learn? We know that they're not designed for 4K uncompressed footage, but I'm not surprised neither of them has a dedicated GPU in it for transcoding video like that. So just not the purpose, not the thing. But if you want to, watch and stream a couple movies off it or some TV shows, it'll work perfectly fine. Okay, last thing I want to do is test backing up an Apple laptop to a Time Machine server. And how do we do that? Now, first we need to set up the Time Machine server. Looking at the QNAP documentation, it was a little bit weird. I kind of Googled it, checked it out. It pulled up this page, and it was old QTS 4.3 documentation that required you to create the username first and kind of go through the process. I paused that because I know I've done it before. Instead, I downloaded the HBS3 hybrid backup app that you can find in the QNAP App Store. Once you download that, go over to services on the left side, and then there's Time Machine. You start the Time Machine server there. You pick a password for the already existing Time Machine username it's already built into the QTS operating system. I don't know when they put it in, but this is QTS 5. And once you start that up, you literally just have to jump over to your any Mac OS system that's on the network. You launch the Time Machine app in Mac OS X, and then you click Add Backup Disk, toss in your local password for your computer, and then it'll automatically find the TS-233 NAS that now has the Time Machine server running on it. You literally pick it, say connect, it's gonna ask you for a username and password. You throw in the Time Machine username and the password that you just created, and you click connect, and it'll ask you if you want to encrypt it. I didn't for the purpose of this video, but go nuts. And then that's it. 60 seconds later, it will automatically start backing up your entire laptop, computer to the NAS. If we swing back over to HBS3, you can see here there's now a backups tab. If you click in there, you will see the backup that's running. If you refresh it, you'll see it's going, and you can always access it there later. Okay, so let's review everything. We took it out, we installed the drives, we put it on the network, we configured the operating system, we did some performance tests with copying files, we installed Plex, confirmed we can use it as a lovely media server, and then also installed Time Machine service that we can back up our files. What's my initial impressions and takeaways of the QNAP TS-233? Well, firstly, the design update is awesome. The fact that they went with this kind of newer white look, that older tingy yellow look is just bad. But anyway, the design-wise, it looks superb. Next up is the performance. Like I said, this is designed for home use, and you saw I can copy files to it. It works great with RAID 1. I'm able to watch movies, it can do everything that I wanted for a home NAS. And I really couldn't ask for more. I didn't even get into all the other apps that I could have installed on it. If you go to the App Store, there's dozens of other apps that are out there. I just kind of tested the 2 or 3 that came to mind. The biggest thing is the fact that it has RAID 1. If you are still backing up your files, to an external hard drive, like a USB hard drive, you are literally just asking for that thing to die and you lose all of your backups. And it will. All hard drives die, but what's nice about RAID 1 is that the likelihood that they die at the exact same time is extremely rare. So when one dies, you buy another drive, you slap it in, it resynchronizes it, and you're safe again. That's why I love RAID 1. It's just literally the most important feature of this NAS is being able to have a mirrored backup of everything that's important to you. So if you are looking for an awesome mirrored backup solution, check out the QNAP TS-30. The QNAP TS-233. Gosh. Thanks again to QNAP for sending it over and Western Digital providing the 4 terabyte drive. I'll catch you on the next one.